Didn't even know you could do that.
Okay, we're gonna get started. This is the Commission on Chicago Landmarks. Our regular meeting, today's date is February 8th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order with roll call of commission members. Vice Chair Commissioner Jekowitz. Commissioner Boatwright is on the way. Commissioner Burns.
Yeah.
Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Ponce.
Here.
Commissioner Rubin.
Here.
And I am Commissioner Wong. We do have a quorum. I'd like to ask anyone wishing to make a statement on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that a member of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes, for a public comment on the individual item on the agenda, and I will call the names from the cards and ask you to come forward to the microphone and make your statement. Please state your name and the interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. We will be taking public comments on the items that are up for a vote. There are some items that are informational only that we will not be taking public comment on. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of January 11th, 2024. Those meeting minutes were included in your packet. Is there any discussion regarding those? If none, I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes of the January 11th, 2024 regular commission meeting. So motion. So move. So move Commissioner Fair, second by Commissioner Rubin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Good morning. Second item on the agenda is a preliminary landmark recommendation for the Hyde Park Union Church. This is in the 5th Ward. Address is 5600 South Woodlawn Avenue. And Kinlan, take it away.
Okay. Let's share.
Yeah, sure.
It is sharing. Okay, great. Just the end. Okay. So thank you, Chairman Wong. And I'm going to start with 5600 South Woodlawn Avenue. So last year, the program committee of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks received a suggestion to landmark Hyde Park Union Church at 5600 South Woodlawn. The congregation owns the church and requested the designation to celebrate and protect the church's legacy. I'm here today with a preliminary landmark recommendation for designation of the Hyde Park Union Church. The church is located on the city's south side in the Hyde Park community. It sits on the southwest corner of the intersection of Woodlawn and 56th Street, 1 block east of the University of Chicago campus. Historic Preservation Division staff believe that Hyde Park Union Church meets 3 criteria for Chicago landmark designation, including criterion 1 for heritage. The origins of Hyde Park Union Church can be traced back to the 1874 establishment of the First Baptist Church of Hyde Park. The congregation was initially housed in a modest wood frame church building at 54th and Dorchester. Hyde Park, then a modest but growing suburban township, was annexed by the city of Chicago in 1889. The church's congregation was also expanding, and they added on to the existing building during the same period to accommodate the additional families. Development in Hyde Park was further spurred by the founding of the University of Chicago in 1890. The school's establishment was heavily influenced by the American Baptist community and largely funded by business magnate John D. Rockefeller, a prominent philanthropist and devout Baptist. This era ushered in a symbiotic relationship between the university and the First Baptist Church of Hyde Park, as the church found itself well positioned as the closest Baptist place of worship to the campus. The wave of students and faculty attracted by the university led to a rise in both numbers and social standing of the church's congregation. Among the influx of new congregants was William Rainey Harper, the first president of the University of Chicago, whose affiliation underscored the deepening ties between the academic institution and the church. In 1893, President Harper began encouraging church leaders to consider relocating and constructing a new house of worship to accommodate the congregation's growth in size and prominence. The following year, the congregation demolished its original church building and purchased 2 lots at the corner of Woodlawn and 56th Street. This location was selected for its proximity to the university campus and many of the faculty members' homes. A 2-story Richardsonian Romanesque style brick church building was completed on the western half of this property in 1896, with space to the east intentionally reserved for future expansion. Just 5 years later, the church was ready to pursue that expansion. Their effort was supported by fundraising from within the congregation, as well as a significant gift from John D. Rockefeller, who was still heavily involved in the University of Chicago and believed that the church served an essential role for the school by providing spiritual education. Staff also believed that Hyde Park Union Church meets criterion for exemplary architecture. Architect James Gamble Rogers was hired to design the new addition, which would house a larger, grander sanctuary. Initially, the church commissioned an elaborate Gothic revival design with a towering spire. However, cost estimates turned out to be double the amount the congregation had raised. Rogers went back to the drawing board and drafted a more budget-friendly, yet still striking, Richardsonian Romanesque design that would complement the existing building. Construction of the new sanctuary building was completed in 1906. Rogers' design includes many distinctive characteristics of the Richardsonian Romanesque style. Solid rusticated red stone walls, round arched fenestration, a steep gable roof, and corner towers. This style was quite popular around the turn of the 20th century, particularly for churches and other institutions that wished to impart a sense of majesty and permanence. Richardsonian Romanesque architecture is a variation of the Romanesque revival style, which enjoyed a resurgence in the 1880s. It's named for architect Henry Hobson Richardson, whose personal adaptation of the Romanesque revival style was established with the construction of Trinity Church in Boston in 1877. By the mid-1880s, his work expanded to the Midwest and Chicago, where he's possibly best known for the massive Marshall Field wholesale store completed in 1887 and now demolished, and the John J. Glesner House, a Chicago landmark. By the 1920s, Hyde Park Baptist Church was again in need of more space. The smaller 1896 chapel was demolished to make way for a new, larger building that would be constructed as an addition to the 1906 Rogers designed sanctuary. This addition was designed by Morrison and Wallace, an architectural firm with a personal connection to the congregation, through architect James Morrison, who was a church member. They created the Education Wing, a 4-story building with a 5-story tower, with many design elements similar to those of the existing building to create a unified look. Both buildings have a masonry exterior of red and white stone, round arches, framed openings, and square towers. However, the Education Wing also incorporates some subtly distinctive elements from the classical revival style, which had become very popular by the time of the building's construction. This is reflected in the Education Wing's flat roofline with dentil cornice, its dented string course, and rectangular windows and trim. Hyde Park Union Church also has an impressive array of ornate stained glass windows. Many were donated by congregants as memorials to loved ones, featuring names of former members, such as William Rainey Harper. The church's stained glass collection includes works by the Tiffany, Charles J. Connick, and FX Zettler Studios. Staff also believe that the Hyde Park Union Church meets criterion 5 as the work of a nationally significant architect. James Gamble Rogers was a prolific architect who made significant contributions to early 20th century American architecture. After graduating from Yale University and further honing his skills in Paris, Rogers started his architectural practice in Chicago, designing a mix of residential and educational buildings. Rogers is best known for his mastery of the collegiate Gothic style, most evident in his extensive planning and design work at his alma mater, Yale University. He also made significant contributions to other campuses, including the University of Chicago, Columbia University, and Northwestern University, which helped define the architectural identity of these higher learning institutions and others in America, and set a benchmark for campus design across the country for years to follow. At left is Harkness Tower, synonymous with Yale. At the upper right is his 1903 Blaine Hall at the University of Chicago, now serving as the university's lab school. And on the bottom right is Northwestern University's Chicago campus, where Rogers designed not only the campus plan, but the 3 buildings within it: Wiebold Hall, Mayer Hall, and the Montgomery Ward Memorial Building, all of which now form a Chicago landmark district. The Richardsonian Romanesque style of Hyde Park Union Church represents a departure from the Gothic Revival style Rogers predominantly used in his designs, but this stylistic divergence highlights the versatility and range of Rogers' work. In addition to the criteria just discussed, Historic Preservation Division staff believe that Hyde Park Union Church meets the separate integrity criterion. The church retains its original character-defining exterior features, materials, and overall design. The church has undergone only minor alterations and deterioration typical for a building of its age, including selective inclined replacement of damaged clay tile roof tiles. Overall, the building has retained sufficient integrity to convey its historic, architectural, and cultural significance. Though not presented today, we are continuing discussion of designating the interior with the church. Currently, we are looking at the elements of the interior so we can craft an appropriate recommendation, and we would bring that back before the commission with the final recommendation. At this time, staff recommendations are that the significant historical and architectural features of the Hyde Park Union Church are all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building. Alderman Yancey provided a letter of support, a copy of which is currently at your places. And Pastor Veronica Johnson, I believe, LaShawn Bryant and Susan Vandermoylen are here from the church to answer any questions you may have. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ken. Does the commission have any questions for Ken on this? If there are none, would the applicant like to make any comments? Yes, please.
And I'm LaShawn Bryant. Can everybody hear me okay?
You can speak up just a little bit louder.
Okay, how about now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon. I'm here to share why Hyde Park Union should be considered for Chicago landmark status. I could continue to elaborate on the architecture. James Gamble Rogers, our amazing Tiffany stained glass windows, and our rich history we share with the University of Chicago and the Hyde Park community. Hyde Park Union Church was home to the University of Chicago to a 97-year-old nursery, one of the first nurseries in the country. Hyde Park Union Church's rich history and devotion to its community is profound. But I personally feel that those are just adornments of the true treasures that are going on inside of Hyde Park Union Church. Hyde Park Union Church houses the Hyde Park Kenwood Hunger Program. This program has been established and active for almost 40 years, providing assistance through the food pantry at Hyde Park Union Church. During the dark times of the pandemic, our sanctuary was turned into a full-out distribution center for families and individuals in need throughout the city of Chicago. And as for our present day, our food pantry is serving families and individuals at record numbers. Hyde Park Union Church has accommodated the food pantry's rising numbers by allowing for more space to house their increased resources. And Hyde Park Union Church shares the building with the Hyde Park Korean United Methodist Church. The Hyde Park Korean United Methodist Church has shared our building for over 15 years. The Korean United Methodist Church is a bridge connecting people from the Korean community to the Hyde Park area. They provide campus ministry for the University of Chicago, students, small group ministries, worship service, and fellowship and care ministry. Hyde Park Union Church is home to the Surratt, Chicago Surratt, is a community organization dedicated to increase the numbers and visibility of Muslim community spaces, both in Hyde Park and throughout the Chicagoland area. Hyde Park Union Church also shares a space with the Mela Conte de Chicago, the Singing Women of Chicago. It's a 20+ member women's choir based in the Hyde Park neighborhood. The women who comprise the choir come from many backgrounds and nationalities. We share our building with the Chicago Chorale, a choral group that brings the community together with an annual Christmas celebration. Hyde Park Union Church serves as a site for the annual Hyde Park Jazz Fest. Our sanctuaries has hosted well-known Chicago artists, such as our very own late great Willie Pickett, at a Hyde Park legend. Our church has embraced Wooten Marsalis and a host of other jazz breaks into our sanctuary throughout the years. Every year, we have participated in the Chicago Architectural Center's Open Tours, Open House Chicago, since 2018. Open House Chicago wanted to expand its tours from just downtown into the Chicago neighborhood. Eric Rogers, the former coordinator, reached out to ask us if our church would be willing to open to visitors. We were thrilled to open our doors. As a historic site in the neighborhood and our connection to the University of Chicago, many visitors stop by and look around. This allows us to put out the welcome mat. Our doors are open only for 4 hours. We have anywhere to 150 to 200 visitors a day, both Saturday and Sunday. Hyde Park Union Church, much like our beautiful stained glass rose window, is a tapestry of the community and the city we serve. We have taken our architect's vision of a sacred space and multiplied its vision beyond anything imagined in its creation in 1906. Here today, within our walls, we house on any given day the University of Chicago grad students, 12-step recovery programs. Our building is what the city of Chicago stands for, utilizing every space to serve the city, welcoming all persons, regardless of economic status, religious belief, gender, cultural backgrounds, or immigration status. So please consider Hyde Park Union Church for landmark status based on our architectural and community history and our pleasant plight to serve the needs of Chicago's residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or comments? Having none, I'll call for comments from the public. I'll start with Mr. Chavez.
Good afternoon. I'm Max Chavez, Director of Research and Special Projects Preservation Chicago. I just want to offer our organization support of the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Hyde Park Union Church. We're very happy to see this exceptional 1906 house of worship being considered for landmark status, and we're very confident that it will make a tremendous addition to the landscape of landmarks in Hyde Park. As we've seen, the church is an architectural and artistic wonder. It's an early design by James Gamble Rogers, an extremely notable American architect, with 10 individual structures that are noted on the CHRS. He's arguably most famous for his collegiate Gothic designs, including some of the most well-known academic settings in the US, including Yale, Columbia, Northwestern, and of course, the nearby University of Chicago. The church, as we can clearly see, it exhibits much of the stately elegance found in Rogers' later larger works, here cast in a stunning orange sandstone that looks rather unlike most churches elsewhere in the city. I think even more incredibly, the wonderful artistic collection of the church in the form of its array of stained glass, including works by notable masters of the form like Tiffany, Zettler, and Koenig. We're excited to learn that the interior may be considered for landmark designation, so that's a move that we wholeheartedly endorse, and we hope to see that come to pass as well. The church's long history is of significant note, and it certainly contributes to a landmark eligibility as well. In so many ways, the church maintains a strong connection to the eventual university as it grew next to it, and mirrored its growth in so many different facets. Far and beyond those early years, as we just heard, the church has served Hyde Park in countless ways as a community space and a place of worship. So we're happy to see another very essential and important religious building enter the consideration stage for landmark status, especially at a time when we're losing so many churches elsewhere in the city to either closures, consolidations, or abandonment. So our organization applauds the decision to bring this church into preliminary landmark consideration. I'm very happy to support this destination in any way.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Mr. Blakemore?
Yeah, you're up. Thank you. I'm very happy to hear that this Union Church is rich from history of this Hyde Park Community Church. And it reached out to the Black community. Several activities by listening, you'll learn. You can be educated by being exposed. I was listening to the young lady from the church, and you're doing a beautiful job reaching out to the Black community. So this is why it's very important for for Black people to participate in government. This would be very beautiful for some of our schools, our Black schools in the area, and our community organizations be able to, listen and see what's going on in the city with our historical buildings. So when you know better, you do better. I challenge you here at this landmark commission, City of Chicago, use this as an educational experience to teach the young people. Now, I'm looking around your outreach program you sent to the Black community. I can count about 1 or 2 or 3 Black people here. So somebody is not outreaching like you could. When you know better, you do better. So if we have high crime in our area and we are being miseducated, it's because our people are not being informed. So please open up these meetings, commission, to the Black community. Invite them and let them know. Some of them, they don't even know about this commission. And when you look around, you see other races. Why isn't it just 1, 2, 3 Black people, 4 here? Somebody is not reaching out to our community. And this is why it's very important for a person like Mr. Whitmore to come to these meetings. Maybe I failed, that I didn't do due diligence by telling people in my community about the commission. Now, I'm gonna be seated and I'm gonna keep quiet before you say 3 minutes. I was watching how long he spoke. I was watching. And you do have rules and you say 3 minutes. But so we must be fair. So I'm quite comfortable here. I'm not intimidated here. I belong here. So I will be speaking on these other items. And this is one time I spoke, I'm gonna speak 7 times today. Why are you doing this, Blakemore, Mr. Blakemore? Why shouldn't I? Just why shouldn't I? So thank you. You did that bill with him, with me now, my mini. You didn't do it with him. So you watch how you treat me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Don't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Mr. Spicer.
Thank you, Mr. Ron.
Here's the chair, you keep quiet.
Jack Spicer from Hyde Park. Another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Thank you all very, very much. We've landmarked Wobie House, we've landmarked Rockefeller Chapel, we've landmarked KM Isaiah, Temple, and all those things have been really beneficial to our neighborhood. So please come down to the south side and landmark anything you want. We're ready for you and we would welcome you. I also want to add what I'm not sure.
I'm LaShawn.
What LaShawn said about the civic value of the church is really important. I lived around the block corner from that church for many years. And even though it's not necessarily relevant to the landmarking, it's really relevant to the neighborhood. I think that this landmarking that goes through this appreciation for what that church is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ward Miller. I'm the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. And as you heard, Preservation Chicago very much supports this project. We've been working with the neighborhood over time. What's really exciting is not only to see this amazing church come in the landmark process, but also realizing the significance of Woodlawn Avenue and this particular area of Hyde Park. And we've seen some demolitions of important houses here. It'd be wonderful to see more protections in place. And hopefully this opens the door to more landmark designations or perhaps even a district in this area of the city that's so highly important, and maybe the University of Chicago could be our partner in that idea. So I wanted to continue the idea of more Chicago landmarks in this vicinity and really back the landmark designation of the Hyde Park Union Church, which we've all been at over time and is so much a part of the Hyde Park community.
Thank you. Nobody else has signed up to speak on this matter. Having none, is there any other discussion on your side? None, I'd like to request a motion. to adopt the preliminary landmark recommendation for the Hyde Park Union Church located at 5600 South Woodlawn Avenue. Is there a motion? So moved. Commissioner Fair, will second. Commissioner Jacobitz. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Boatright,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponce,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the report from the Department of Planning and Development on the John B. Murphy Memorial located at 50 East Series Street in the 42nd Ward. For this item, I will be recusing myself along with Commissioner Burns. Vice Chair, Mr. Commissioner Jacobitz, would you please step in for me on this agenda? Thank you, sir.
Sure, just a brief report. So the proposed designation of the John B. Murphy Memorial does not raise any concerns or issues from a planning perspective. So I don't have a formal report for the commission, but I would like to state for the record that I recommend approval of the proposed designation.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions? Seeing none, we move to the public comment period. We have public comments. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ward Miller, the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. We at Preservation Chicago enthusiastically support the Department of Planning and Development's report by Commissioner Boatright, along with the preliminary Chicago landmark designation of the John B. Murphy Memorial Building located at 50 East Erie Street on Chicago's near north side. The Murphy Memorial Building is a spectacular structure designed by Benjamin Marshall and the firm of Marshall and Fox in the French Renaissance style for the American College of Surgeons in 1926. The red rated building, one of only 200 such red rated buildings in the city, as noted in the Chicago Historic Resources Survey, has long been recognized by residents of the near north side neighborhood as a significant building, as well as the architecture and preservation community. It's a fine quality building worthy of a Chicago landmark designation. The structure has been essentially a landmark in waiting, if you will, for many years, perhaps decades, and the official Chicago landmark designation and recognition of the building and its history has been well received. With that said, many of us are grateful for this designation, honor, and protections offered for this incredible structure, which also coincides with the 150th anniversary of architect Benjamin Marshall's birth and the 80th anniversary of his death. The Murphy Memorial's primary function was to provide an auditorium and reception space for their adjoining headquarters in the Samuel Nickerson Mansion by architects Burling and Whitehouse in 1883, a long-recognized Chicago landmark. And of course, the College of Surgeons constructed the building to honor the great medical doctor, John B. Murphy. The Murphy Memorial also reflects Chicago's Gilded Age as one of the last grand-scale structures in the community, which was not a more typical commercial building. The Murphy Memorial, in all of its beauty and function, also provided means for the long-term preservation of Nickerson's Marble Palace, as it was known, the former offices and headquarters of the American College of Surgeons during a time of Chicago's expansive growth and development. During that period, many former mansions and fine homes in the vicinity were demolished, with commercial structures replacing them. This was fueled in part by the revisioning of Pine Street, formerly a residential thoroughfare, to a commercial street, North Michigan Avenue, with the extension of the Michigan Avenue Bridge in 1920. The Treehouse Museum's expansion and ownership of the Murphy Memorial will provide a fabulous reuse of the building as an amazing cultural institution in downtown Chicago and will further the museum's programming and exhibitions. Lastly, we'd like to share that the acquisition of the Murphy Memorial to become part of the Richard H. Treehouse Museum and a designated Chicago landmark is a fulfillment of a vision by Chicago philanthropist Richard H. Treehouse, who passed away almost 3 years ago today on March 9th. Richard very much shared with us at Preservation Chicago that he wanted to see this building not only join his museum complex, but become a designated Chicago landmark to preserve this building in perpetuity. So this wish and vision of Mr. Driehaus has now been fulfilled by the institution that bears his name by this commission and by our city. This is very heartfelt. We at Preservation Chicago enthusiastically support the designation of the Murphy Memorial Building. It's historic Erie Street facade, its interior and the significant spaces, as well as its beautiful auditorium as a Chicago landmark. And I just want to take a moment separately on another note to introduce a new member of our staff, Patrick Grassi. He's our Director of Development Policy. And I just wanted to introduce him to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And Kurt Whitmore.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm very familiar with the location. And, it's, treehouse for more than a year. And I know you have this organization here. You all work for this foundation. Now I'm gonna play the race card. How many people in your organization are people of color? Black people. So I know that you all are private, but you're in a public setting now, and you advocate for a building in the city of Chicago to be of landmark status. Your organization, sir, I might question, how many people of color, black people, and I'm not doing color, black like me, are part of your organization and on your payroll? I have every right to ask this question because you are now in a public domain. That's why I can be here. So again, you all need to include people, black people. So you have a new staff member here. I want to know how many black people work on your staff. You all are a private organization, and you don't come up and put it in the public domain because it's a rich foundation, billions of dollars. So I've completed my 3 minutes, and you didn't have to ring that little bell on me. This is why it's very important for people like me to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. There being no one further wishing to comment, I'll ask for discussion by the commission. And, any discussion? As there is no report to accept the action before us on this item, is to vote to continue with the designation process by requesting consent from the property owners. And with that, I'd like to request a motion to take the next step in the designation process. You have a motion. So Commissioner Boatright, second Commissioner Rubin, and the roll call. Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Yes, and the motion carries unanimously. We'll invite Chairman Wong. Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Next item on the agenda, the final landmark recommendation for Apollo's 2000, located at 2875 West Summit Road and in the 24th ward. And yeah, it's yours.
And then last, are we good?
Getting there. It's already done. It's just to close that one. Yeah, close it. That's the one. Okay.
Excellent, thanks, Cameron. So Commissioners, last December, you voted preliminary recommendations for Apollo's 2000, a historic motion picture theater built in 1917. And last month, you heard a favorable statement from DPD on the proposed designation. Since then, the Galindo family has consented in writing to the designation. So you now may consider a final recommendation to the City Council. Building is located at the corner of Cermak Road and Marshall Boulevard in the Little Village neighborhood of the larger South Lawndale community. Your preliminary findings in December were that the building meets 2 criteria for landmark designation, including criteria 1 for heritage. And that heritage relates to the building's history as both a motion picture cinema and later a cultural hub for the Latino community, which remains. In 1917, announcements for a new theater on Cermak appeared in publications ranging from New York's Variety to a local Polish newspaper. At the time, the neighborhood was known as Marshall Square, and the theater would adopt that name for the new building. After 8 months of construction, the theater opened in December 1917 with a screening of Paramount Pictures' His Mother Boy and the International Sneak. Like most silent film theaters, the Marshall was equipped with a pit for a 10-piece orchestra, and it had an organ, and it featured a female vocalist at all films. And here is a photo of the exterior of the building taken shortly after it opened. The Marshall was built by brothers Lewis and Meyer Marx. Their career in Chicago's cinema business mirrors the development of the motion picture industry throughout the nation. The Marx brothers began with opening small Nickelodeons in 1910. These were theaters in existing buildings. By the early 1910s, the Marx brothers had grown successful enough to build their own theaters like this one, the Bowl, from 1914, which was in North Lawndale. It was designed by architect Alexander Levy, who the Marx brothers would continue to employ for all their theater designs. With seating for less than 1,000, the Marx's early theaters would soon be too small to meet the growing popularity of cinemas. In 1917, the brothers built the Broadway Strand Theater and its sister, the Marshall Square, now Apollo's, at 1,500 and 1,800 seats respectively. The buildings also included rental storefronts and offices, placing them into a new multi-purpose building type known as a theater block. These buildings would also set the stage for the high point of cinema architecture with theater palaces of the 1920s. And the Marx circuit built 2 fabulous examples of these palaces. Granada in 1926 and the Marlborough in 1927, which had seating for thousands of patrons. Neither of these theaters survived. Indeed, the Marshall Square, now Apollo's, appears to be the only surviving Marx Brothers theater. In 1929, the theater transitioned from silent films to talking pictures, and in 1936, a larger marquee and neon blade sign were added, now refaced with the building's current Apollo's 2000. As South Lawndale transitioned to a Latino population in the 1960s, the Marshall Square began offering Spanish language films such as El Gato, a Mexican Western. By the 1980s, the supply of new films from Mexico was drastically reduced due to changes in government support there, which led to closure of the theater. The closure of the Marshall in the 1980s was not unusual. What is remarkable, however, the building avoided demolition. The survival of the building is credited with Javier and Lydia Galindo, Mexican immigrants who purchased the Darken Theater in 1989. In 1990, they rechristened the building as Apollo's 2000 and successfully converted it to an event and performance venue that has become a cultural hub in the Latino community of Chicago. To convert the former theater into performance and event venue, the 1990 renovation included removal of the original seating. Slope floor was reconfigured with multiple levels. The stage was expanded and lighting was added. The overall volume and architectural character of the interior have, however, been very well preserved. In the early years, Apollo's 2000 established itself as a venue for weddings and quinceañeras. In the 1990s, the success of these events allowed the Galindos to begin programming concerts that appealed to the Latino community at a time when this audience was largely ignored. Apollo's 2000 hosted Spanish rock bands Mana and Los Fabulosos Cadillacs, as well as Spanish pop performers such as Joan Sebastian. Notable Latin jazz artists have also performed at the theater, including Cuban trumpeter Arturo Sandoval. Films, comedy, and private events continue to be part of Apollo's 2000's programming. The venue is remarkable for the variety of its programs, including children's theaters, lectures by authors, political fundraisers, and support for nonprofit organizations. Presently, Apollo's 2000 continues to be owned, operated, and managed by the Galindo family. In addition to the building's cultural weight, your December findings stated that Apollo's 2000 also meets criterion for architecture. Like most theaters from the early 20th century, Apollo's 2000 employs dramatic architecture, in this case of Beaux-Arts exterior and interior, to attract customers with a sense of luxury and escape from the everyday. The architectural focal point of the building is the theater entrance, which is treated as a tall arch framed by square towers topped with domes. Much of the building's interest derives from its terracotta ornament, which was manufactured in Chicago by the Midland Company. The ornament employs Beaux-Arts style, seen sculptured eagles, classical festoons, and cartouches. That ornamentation is carried through into the interior on an even grander scale. Here is the entrance lobby with its excellent decorative work. Passing through this lobby, one enters the theater auditorium. Shown here, the stage and proscenium are framed with full-height fluted Corinthian columns carrying an entablature. The main volume of the ceiling is a flat rotunda framed with an ornamental vane. The walls of the auditorium are relieved with panel molding. Though no longer in use, the projection booth retains its vintage film cabinets and art light projectors. Your preliminary findings of December stated buildings meet the separate integrity criteria. As a 107-year-old motion picture theater, Apollo's 2000 retains excellent physical integrity to convey its value. Changes to the exterior include evolution of the blade sign and the marquee, as illustrated here. These are very common changes to historic movie theaters, which frequently updated marquees and signage as lighting technology changed. I've discussed alterations to the interior of the auditorium that were implemented in 1990 to convert the space to a performance space. These changes have allowed the building to be profitably reused and do not substantially interfere with architectural quality of the auditorium. The building is located in the 24th ward, and Alderwoman Scott has provided a letter of support for this designation. We have also received a letter of support from Congressman Jesus Chuy Garcia, as well as from community organizations Latinos Progresando and Tabocali Community Education Project. We recommend that the significant historical and architectural features of the building be identified as: first, all exterior elevations, including the roof lines of the building. And second, the interior lobby leading to the auditorium, and third, the interior of the auditorium. To these points, staff recommends some additional language for consideration. First, a blade sign and marquee have always been part of the building's exterior elevations. As with many historic theaters, these features have evolved over time in terms of size, material, and illumination. The commission's review of future work proposed to this blade sign and marquee should ensure that these continue to be features of the building while allowing reasonable change and flexibility to meet new needs. Second, the 1990 changes that were made to the interiors of the lobby, including floor finishes, new floor platforms, 3 bars, neon lighting, chandeliers, stage lighting, and its ceiling mounted trusses, as well as changes to screens and bathrooms. We recommend that these later alterations be excluded from the significant historical features, given the recent information. You have a final recommendation to that effect before you. I'm here to answer any questions. Lydia and Javier Galindo are also here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Does the commission have any questions for that? Yes, sir. Matt, could you actually remind us a little bit more about the storefronts that are there?
Yeah, so that was part of the original program for the building, that it had storefronts on either side of the arch. The main arch there that you see, that's the entrance to the theaters themselves. And then there are storefronts on either side and also wrapping around the corner on Marshall Boulevard. Those storefronts were small retail. Some of them are occupied, some are not since COVID. They have, like many storefronts in the building of this vintage, some of the glazing is going to change. But we have sort of photographs, so should somebody come back in the future, we know how to review those changes to bring it closer.
They are part of the.
As well as there are above those storefronts, rental offices. They're also.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Galindo. Floor is yours. We do have a, no, I'm just kidding.
You want to attack me? No, once again, I think that it's imperative that I, first and foremost, thank you all for the support, the encouragement that we've gotten from everybody here. But I think that we should also, at least I feel an enormous amount of gratitude for all the hands that have worked building this gem for us. Starting with the architect, the designer, and all the laborers that put their 2 cents worth in building this wonderful architecture inside. And I see the terracotta, it's amazing. And sometimes you kind of bypass them and they're forgotten, but we shouldn't forget them. And I think that they deserve mention and the recognition. This is the land of dreams, and sometimes even dreams that you never had come true. You saw the poster there for a movie, one of the movies, El Gato. Okay, that movie was projected there in 1967 in March. Okay, 3 days after I got into this country. We got here on a Thursday when we had that big historical snowfall, and on Sunday we went to see that movie at the Apollo. Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever suspected that as a little kid, maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, I'd be holding the keys to that place. So again, this is a country where, even dreams that you never had come true. So it's amazing. And to have you all here supporting this project, it's uncharted territory for us, but we feel confident that we're in the right hands and we're being guided in the right direction. Once again, thank you very much. And we can't wait to have it come to fruition and be fulfilled. Being a designated landmark, again, it's just not for us, definitely not for us. We're gonna be gone, and but for the community, for the city, and for all the people that made it there. So thank you, it's an honor.
Thank you, Mr. Galindo. Does the commission have any questions or?
I just wanted to say, thank you too for providing this gift to the city. cultural pride and history and so much more. I think how you put it was extremely well put. And it's a wonderful gift to the city. So thank you for going on this journey that could probably seem very daunting to do a landmark, but you know, obviously with this amazing staff, it doesn't seem as daunting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. Any other questions or comments? Having none, I'm going to call for public comment on this. Mr. Chavez.
Hi, once again, Max Chavez, Director of Research and Special Projects and Preservation, Chicago. Our organization is really very happy to continue supporting the final landmark recommendation for Apollo 2000. After a lot of these meetings, we've had really wonderful conversations with the owners, the Calindos, and the detailed presentations by landmark staff as well. I think all of it together just really tells an incredible story about a very important cultural institution as well as an architectural site here in the city. I think especially because part of this story speaks to the heritage of the Latino community in Chicago, something that maybe not enough landmarks in the city do right now. It's really exciting to see the story being brought forth. And even reviewing this report right now, this appendix at the end with the personal stories and memories of Mr. Galindo. I would love to see more of these in the reports. I think it's really incredible to have the larger cultural context kind of tied in with a very personal story. I think that was really important and adds a lot of depth and color to this. So, again, thanks to everybody who dedicated their time and energy to bringing this forward. It's really amazing to see various things.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Mr. Blakemore.
Yes. Beautiful building in the store, and I'm happy to see that the Latino community is restoring this building, and their political leaders are supporting it. Now, but I'm terrorized just thinking in my mind about the RICO on 79th Stone Avenue. Something wrong with it. Something wrong. Why is it that that building is continues to be deteriorating? And there's something wrong here. That's a beautiful building right there at 79th and Stone Avenue. And I think that you all should be happy and to cooperate with the owner of that building and get it restored and work with him. But you're working with these other political hacks that whoever heard of two legal on the south side. So I challenge you that the reservation of Chicago or whatever historical. I'm still looking at the racial makeup of members of your private organization coming in here. This is a public place. So I'm wanting you all to, I challenge you to don't let us lose that deal. And you can adopt a landmark and adopt that bill. This is why the ancestors sent me here. I'm not just pop up. Now, that Apollo, everything is looking nice, you renovated it, and the community is happy. But I'm not happy to see that historical building there being deteriorated on Stone Alley, that's like 79. And you shouldn't be happy. Preservation or reservation, whatever, Chicago, you shouldn't be happy to see that building. And you told me it was because of the political. You told me that Alderman Harris, that don't let the politics come into these political, these historical buildings. Cut it out. She has no power to deny the Black community from restoring that beautiful building there. That's why it's very important for me to come to these meetings. I don't come to these meetings to see you. I come for you all to see me. I don't come to these meetings to hear you. I come for you all to hear me. Now, I want you to work on that. preservation or reservation, whatever, Chicago, and I want to see more black people on your staff too, because this is a public meeting. Even though this organization you work for is rich and powerful, but you coming on the public way now. That's what that's why Mr. Blakemore can show up and speak out on the behalf of his community. I told you about that bill too.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Kendra Parson,
Fine. Hi, everyone. I've already made comments in support of this nomination here, the preliminary designation, so I'll keep this very brief, but I just want to reiterate Landmark's Illinois' immense support for this landmark designation and for their families for that process. I had the pleasure recently of visiting the theater and speaking with them and hearing about their hopes and dreams for the future of this building, and I think that the landmark designation will be an excellent way for the city to start supporting that. So again, so supportive of this, and pleased to be able to be here to say that today. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Parson. Mr. Miller,
Yes, Ward Miller with Preservation Chicago. Just wanted to again express our appreciation and gratitude to the commission, the staff here at City Hall and DPD, Historic Preservation Division, and of course the family, the Lindo family here for this remarkable landmark in a community that doesn't really have a lot of landmarks, and especially a Latinx landmark, and how beautiful that is to encourage that. And of course, the Little Village Arch that was landmarked last year. So hats off to you and your stewardship, both of you, your family, and of course, your staff and all of you on the Commission of Chicago Landmarks, and Commissioner Boatwright as well. Thank you so much.
thank you, Mr. Miller. Nobody else has signed up to speak on this item. Before there's any further discussion, I'd like to call for a motion to adopt the final landmark recommendation to City Council for policy 2000 at 2875 West Cermak Road. Is there a motion? So moved. There's a move, Commissioner Edwards, and second by Commissioner Fonsai. I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Boatright,
Yes.
Commissioner Burns, Commissioner Fair,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is the citywide adopted landmark fund for 2023, the applications. This is informational only. There's no resolution, and I will not take any public comment on this item. Dan Clever, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Staff are here today with an overview of the most recent Adopt a Landmark preliminary awards. DPD has selected 13 projects for conditional Adopt a Landmark Fund grants from the most recent funding round out of 31 received. As a reminder, when ready, each of the projects presented here today and their respective scopes of work and budgets will need to be presented to the full commission for approval. And in the case of grant awards over $250,000, City Council approval as well. Staff are very excited to present these preliminary projects. They consist of 2 projects that are aspiring or existing performance venues, 5 projects that are religious houses of worship, which also function as centers of local community life in a variety of ways, 3 projects that are planned commercial spaces that will add to the economic vibrancy in their respective areas, 1 educational facility that cements the legacy of Mies van der Rohe, and 2 large-scale residential anchor projects, all together located in multiple areas across the city and representing $8.2 million in preliminary awards, while leveraging approximately $150 million in other investments. A quick refresher here now, as you may recall, the funding priority for Adopt a Landmark projects approved previously by the commission was neighborhood anchor buildings and neighborhood commercial buildings. The goal with this funding priority was to focus on landmark buildings in Chicago's neighborhoods that are centers or aspiring centers of community life, or commercial or mixed-use buildings that reinforce local commerce and pedestrian activity. The projects were also reviewed against the above 7 evaluation criteria, which were established in prior years. And now, in no particular order, are snapshots of the projects themselves. First up is Laramie State Bank at 5200 West Chicago in Austin. The Laramie State Bank project was conditionally awarded $2,093,010 for restoration work to the primary facades on West Chicago Avenue and North Laramie Avenue, including terracotta masonry restoration, window and door replacement to the 1928 structure. The award is contingent upon proof of financing and full source of funds for the entire $16.3 million project, as well as proof of ownership of the property within 2 years. The overall project, when fully complete, will result in a new bank, other commercial and community spaces anchoring this key corner as part of a concerted city effort to redevelop this area, which also includes a $72 million mixed income development project immediately next door to the Laramie State Bank, slated to begin construction in 2024. Next is the Schlitz Brewery Tide House at 958 West 69th Street in Inglewood. The $250,000 preliminary award will help fund a collapsed roof rebuild and associated masonry work on the 1898 structure as part of an approximately $313,000 project. The award is contingent on proof of financing for the entire project. When completed, the project will help pave the way for a planned cafe and shared office/community space that will once again anchor and enliven this neighborhood corner. Next is the First Baptist Congregational Church at 1613 West Washington on the near west side. The $1.464 million preliminary award will help fund restoration of the 1871 structure, specifically masonry, roofing, and window work to the main 200-foot tall bell tower, based on a 2022 WJE report that identified potentially hazardous conditions. Like all projects, the grant is contingent on the review of final drawings and details, and in this case, if a full replacement of the slate roof is not required or other cost savings are realized, the remaining funds shall be applied to other high priority work. It should be noted that First Baptist, in addition to serving its parishioners, is a stabilizing community force, providing social services to a host of community groups, disadvantaged populations, while serving as a local food pantry as well. Next is the former Mid-City Trust Bank at 801 West Madison on the near west side. The $1.3 million preliminary award will help fund an overall $53 million project to reuse this long vacant, challenging structure. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds for the entire $53 million project. The adaptive reuse of the former bank, built in 1912, will preserve the interior banking hall as a hotel, called the Neighborhood Hotel, with first floor retail coming in a future phase. Next is the planned double door theater at 1050 West Wilson in Uptown. The $125,000 preliminary award will help fund storefront replacement and masonry work. The award is contingent upon proof of financing and sources of funds for the full $9.9 million overall project, which will return this former theater turned bank building constructed in 1909 into the new home for Double Door, a live entertainment venue that originally started in the 1990s on Milwaukee Avenue. Next is the proposed restoration of the Pioneer Arcade at 1535 North Pulaski in Humboldt Park. The $510,000 preliminary award will help fund the restoration of the building's terracotta facade and interior marble lobby finishes. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds for the entire $23.5 million project. When ultimately completed, the 1925 original billiards hall will be converted as part of a planned 61-unit affordable elderly housing community. Next is the Aragon Ballroom Building at 1106 West Lawrence in Uptown. The $250,000 preliminary award will help fund terracotta replacement, stucco, other masonry and roofing work on this 1926 structure. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds for the entire $1.9 million project. When completed, the project will continue to anchor this live entertainment destination within the Uptown Landmark District, attracting thousands of concert goers annually. Last. Next is the St. Nicholas Ukrainian Catholic Church, located at 2238 West Bryce in Westtown. The $250,000 preliminary award will help fund rose window restoration work on the south facade of the 1915 cathedral. The award is contingent upon proof of financing for the remaining funds. And although not part of the Adopt a Landmark project, this work is in addition to a $6 million capital investment program that is underway at the church in 2024. It must be noted that the church plays a stabilizing role in the community by providing various social services, including to recent refugees from the war in Ukraine. Next is a former IIT main building at 3300 South Federal Street in Douglas. The $500,000 preliminary award will help fund critical masonry and roof restoration work. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds within 2 years for the entire $42 million project. When completed, the conversion of the original 1893 Armor Institute building into a 102-unit rental building will anchor this highly visible structure to its neighborhood once again. Next is the Illinois Institute of Technology Crown Hall at 3360 South State Street in Douglas. The $250,000 preliminary award will help fund a critically needed travertine front stair and porch rebuild. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds for the entire $500,000 project. When completed, this project will continue to anchor this community and educational facility designed by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe and constructed in 1956. Next is the Greater Union Baptist Church at 1956 West Warren in the near west side. The $750,000 preliminary award will help fund critical masonry restoration work that has deteriorated and potentially is leading to water infiltration. When completed, this neighborhood anchor, designed by William LeBaron Jennings, will continue to serve as a stabilizing force on Chicago's near west side, hosting gatherings and activities that strengthen community cohesion like it has since 1886. Next is Canaan Baptist Church at 6659 South Harvard in Inglewood. The $246,659 preliminary award will help fund the church's interior, which is a designated component of the landmark building constructed in 1905. Specifically, it is the historic seating within the church's interior that is in need of restoration and repair, which is currently in an unsafe and unusable condition. When completed, once again, the sanctuary will be able to be occupied more fully as a neighborhood anchor. And finally, is the Wicker Park Lutheran Church at 1500 North Point in Westtown. $250,000 preliminary award will help fund window restoration work, including the rose window at the front entrance and other first floor windows. The award is contingent on proof of financing and sources of funds for the entire project, totaling approximately $448,000. When completed, the church, constructed in 1907, will continue to anchor this community with multiple community services provided from within its walls. So again, as I stated at the onset, each of these projects will come back to the commission and the city council, depending on the grant award amount, when their scope of work and budget is finalized. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Jen. Does the commission have any questions regarding?
Just wanted to acknowledge the team for all of their thorough work of reviewing these critical applications and just acknowledge the impact that this bureau makes, just to preserve and support these really important spaces. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Because there's no resolution on this, we are not taking public comments on this item. Next item on the agenda is the citywide adopt a landmark fund application for the Uptown Square District located at 1106 West Lawrence Avenue in the 46th Ward. And Dan's yours also.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Frozen on there.
We just informed you of 13 projects that DPD conditionally awarded grants to from the most recent Adopt a Landmark application funding round. You may recall that each of the projects are required to come back to the commission for a vote once the budget are fully developed. One of the applicants, Aragon Real Estate LLC, owner of the Aragon Ballroom, a contributing building within the Uptown Square District located at 1106 West Lawrence, has finalized the budget and scope for this project. Aragon Real Estate is requesting $250,000 in Adopt a Landmark funds for exterior envelope work totaling approximately $1.9 million. For orientation, the subject building is located at the northwest corner of West Lawrence Avenue and North Winthrop Street within the Uptown community area and the 46th Ward. The Aragon Ballroom was completed in 1926. And as I just mentioned, it is a contributing building within the Uptown Square District, which was designated a Chicago landmark in 2016. The development of the Uptown Square District during the first 2 decades of the 20th century transformed the intersection of Lawrence and Broadway in the city's Uptown community area from a rural crossroads to one of the region's most vibrant entertainment, business, and shopping districts. Only Chicago's downtown loop rivaled Uptown Square as both an entertainment center and a commercial shopping district. As far as the scope of work to the building's facade, it can be categorized into 6 main chunks, if you will, and this is what you're looking at now is the main Lawrence elevation. First off, in green is the terracotta work. Project will salvage sound terracotta where feasible and replace approximately 350 damaged terracotta units with new GFRC. For the stucco, in light blue, the work focuses on removing the existing stucco back to the original substrate in 4 areas, and then replacing it with a new stucco system with a texture and color to match the original. On the Winthrop side, it's obviously a continuation of the scope. And in darker blue, the work consists of removal and rebuilding of brick masonry at the location shown on the drawings, and then grinding and pointing of deteriorated mortar joints, which is represented in yellow. There's also work planned to the Juliet balconies, that's in the kind of orange-brown color within the middle of the stucco. This work will consist of removal, repair, and reinstallation of the existing iron Juliet balcony railings or replace them in kind. Finally, the roof work, which is in red, includes removal and salvaging all clay tiles and all copper flashings. This is simply a continuation of the Winthrop side. This is the northern half of the east elevation with, again, the similar work as I just described. Next are some photos of the work in progress. The work did start last year, as well as some condition photos to give you a sample of what's going on here. The north parapet wall rebuild in progress. There's images of the terracotta. I can move that. Terracotta pieces to be repaired. Masonry opening showing the corroded steel. and terracotta distress above the storefront. Here is a photo of the terracotta being salvaged for reuse. And finally, these images show the samples of the approved terracotta replacement's texture, color, and finish against original pieces from the facade. The resolution before you to grant the Adopt a Landmark funds to the applicant includes an Exhibit A, which outlines the scope of work and budget, which I just summarized, and which includes $250,000 in grant funds for the $1.9 million project. This resolution and the drawings were included in your packets. In addition, Exhibit A includes the main conditions associated with the project. In summary, the conditions are that all work must be submitted to DPD for prior review and approval. The work must be done in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior standards. The applicant will notify staff of any undocumented conditions. The applicant will enter into an escrow agreement to assure the project is completed and paid for in a timely manner, and that the applicant will provide to DPD the necessary documentation of the project so that staff can also give an informational overview of the project to the commission once completed. Should you vote to approve the project, the department will then enter into a written agreement with the applicant that will incorporate the resolution. Again, the project is located in the 46th Ward, and Alderman Clay is aware of the project. And also with us today to help answer any questions are Ryan Shea, owner, Delph Casitas, and Danielle Boyer, the architects on the team.
Thank you, Dan. Does the commission have any questions for Dan?
Just around completion, estimated completion for the project?
Next spring, it's like the spring of summer next year.
This,
Or this year, yeah.
this coming somewhere between spring.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you have any comments on that?
I'll be very brief. I'm Ryan Shea with Aircon Real Estate LLC. I just want to really thank the commission, Chairman Wong, Commissioner Boatright, and the entire commission, and hats off to the staff as Commissioner Boatright said. They've been very helpful. And it's been very helpful working through this. We're really just proud to be part of Chicago Ward 46 in the Uptown neighborhood. We're humbled to be part of its rich Chicago music history in that neighborhood and the culture that's in that neighborhood now. This project has been a huge undertaking. Happy to have BTL architects who are really good at this type of stuff, walking us through this and helping us. The city's been great. The building department, the legal department, the historic preservation folks, everyone's been able to help us start this project and still open in a safe manner so we can continue to have concerts while this is happening. That was very important to us. This wasn't a planned project. This happened because, the weather helped it along, and then we had some failures. And so this is obviously a very big unexpected expense. And so it looks like I forgot to add a zero on the request, but so we're just really happy that you consider us for this and appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner, have any questions? No? My only comment is, we used to have a vendor across the street called One Up Dog. This dog.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Having no other questions, I'll call for public comments. Mr. Blakemore?
Yes, sir. I'm a little, I'm excited in knowing about the the old theater. I have an uptown, but an area that wasn't one of our better neighborhoods. We could say. Poor people live there, poor white, poor black, poor Hispanic, maybe Indian, a lot of immigrants. And at that time, we theater, wasn't giving any money to renovate and to bring these grand theaters back into their glorious time. But now since the people are being gentrified out, or black, or white, or Hispanic, now the money is coming up to uptown. Something is wrong here. Something is unprofessional here, and something is not good here. So, these people that been a part of uptown for years and years, they're being gentrified out, and a new demographic people are moving in. And now the city is doing everything to bring these areas back to their glorious days. You didn't do that when it was old uptown. So we have to connect the dots here, planning and development, historical landmark commission, bringing equity to our people that are poor, make them rich and prosperous. Now the uptown is moving up, but the poor people are moving out. This is why it's very, very important to have a man of Mr. Baker caliber to come to these meetings. So all things are not well here. All things are not well, and all things are not equal, and all things are not equitable. So, all right, try to be articulate, Mr. Blakemore, with that same fact, with that money. Now, this project, Jared Colligan, that Brickley, and another name was a certain type of bricks. I wanted to know, do we have people look like we will be able to do that type of work? These are people that are not trained in that, to do that. But we've been trained to design Black History Month, Washington DC, people, so there's something wrong here with this whole process. Just the idea that you having a meeting and only one Black person is here. Maybe there's something wrong with Black people, and maybe there's something wrong with this commission. Your job is to educate, inform, and enlighten all of your constituents. So let me not exceed by 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. That concludes the public comments. There being none, I'd like to ask for any further discussion. If there's no further discussion, I'll request a motion to approve the resolution for a citywide adopted landmark fund grant for 1106 West Lawrence Avenue in the Uptown Square District. Is there a motion? Commissioner Byrd?
Second.
And second by Commissioner Ponsack. Commissioner Baldwin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Next item on the agenda is the program committee report. This is a recommendation to the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council on nominations to the National Register of Historic Places. And Sue Ellen, this is yours. Report and suggestions received from the public. The possible landmark designations, the deadline was January 15th. We've got a bunch, right?
Couple.
Couple. All right, all yours.
I want to report that the program committee met on January 16th to hear public comments on 3 suggestions for possible Chicago landmark designation that have been received from the public since the previous program committee meeting. The suggestions and comments have been forwarded to the Historic Preservation Division staff for further review and consideration. No action by the full commission is needed. I also want to report that the program committee reviewed on behalf of the full commission 2 nominations for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. The commission's review of these nominations is under its authority as a certified local government under the National Historic Preservation Act. This gives the commission an opportunity to comment on National Register nominations for Chicago properties. The nominations listed on today's commission agenda are First Emmanuel Lutheran Church and Parsonage at 1124 to 1134 South Ashland Avenue in Ward 27. and Holy Rosary Church at 11300 South Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, New York 9. The program committee voted to recommend that the full commission support both National Register nominations. You were provided with 2 recommendations.
Any questions for Commissioner Burns? Other these items. Now I'll call for comments from the public. Mr. Blakemore.
Signed it several times. And if anyone objects to this debate or continually speaking, you know, I think it's wonderful that this commission of Chicago Landmark adopt these historical site buildings. I think it's great. But you all have to educate the public. And this really should be televised, where the people can actually see what you're doing here. That's why it's very important. You have video right here, then I have my iPhone, and this is the time for your people to show out, to show the beautiful government that we have here, dealing with these historical buildings. So next time, perhaps you should televise on your meeting. And because people could actually see what you're doing here, that's good. Maybe you don't televise it because you don't want them to see some of the things that you're doing that's bad. So I'm challenging each one of you to remember you got to inform, enlighten, and engage your public because you work for the public. And I am a member of the public. And if black people knew better, they would do better. Perhaps I'm failing to educate my people to come to these meetings. Maybe I just want to be the only one up here that's just sitting in the mic. I don't think so. We have to do better here. And it's disgraceful to have anything, a meeting that people have to buzz in and they're locked out. Those doors should always be open to the public. And you should always make the public feel at home because you're a public servant. So I think this is the last report. And I think I perhaps have exceeded my 3 minutes, but that's all. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. No other public comments. I'll ask for any discussion. And if none, I'd like to request a motion to approve the recommendations of the program committee to support the nominations of First Emmanuel Lutheran Church and Parsonage and Holy Rosary Church to the National Register of Historic Places. Is there a motion? So moved, Commissioner Fair. Second by Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Boatright.
Yes.
Commissioner Jekyll.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Plumstead.
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for your work, Commissioner Portman and Commissioner Tom. Next item is the annual report for 2023. This is informational only, so there's no resolution. And Deanna, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the annual report for 2023 was included in your packets, and I just wanted to take a moment to provide a brief summary of the work that was accomplished by the commission and the commission staff last year. City Council approved 3 landmark designations in 2023 that were initiated by the commission in 22. The Pioneer Arcade, Epworth Church, and the Greater Union Baptist Church. 13 proposed landmark designations were initiated by the commission last year, with 6 of these approved by the City Council. Those include Greater Tabernacle Cathedral, Promontory Point, Clark Ledge House, Eugenie Lane Apartments, the Warehouse, and 2 2678 West Washington Boulevard. The remaining 7 designations, including Century Building, Consumers Building, PB and John Gray House, Mars Candy Factory, St. Adalbert's Complex, Apollo 2000, and Jackson Storage and Van Company Warehouse are in process. The commission staff reviewed 1,807 permit applications and performed 2,129 reviews last year. The average number of days to approve the application or issue corrections was 3.8 days. The permit review committee reviewed 42 projects over the course of the year. In addition to reviewing permit applications for landmarks, staff reviewed 662 permit applications for buildings identified in the Chicago Historic Resources Survey as red or orange. 23 of these applications involving partial or full demolition triggered the demolition delay ordinance. 2 Adopt a Landmark projects were completed and certified by the Department of Planning and Development last year, including work at AAM Isaiah Israel Temple and Second Presbyterian Church. In addition, the commission approved the scope of work and budget for 2 Adopt a Landmark Fund projects totaling $500,000 in grants. These projects at 6901 Oglesby Cooperative Apartment Building and 1215 West Gunnison Street have been funded and are under construction. The commission reviewed and issued final certification of a Class L property tax incentive for the conversion of the former LaSalle Street cable car powerhouse into a restaurant. Owners of Chicago Landmark properties can apply for a waiver of building permit fees. In 2023, 6 permit fee waivers were approved by the City Council. In November of last year, the Department of Buildings launched a new express permit system for repairs and small improvement projects. As part of this new program, permit fees for landmark buildings are now automatically being waived without having to get individual waiver approval from the City Council. This efficiency means building and homeowners can benefit immediately from owning landmark properties for basic repair and upkeep work on their properties. And the last, the Chicago Landmark Awards for Preservation Excellence were held virtually on November 2nd. 11 awardees representing a great cross-section of places and people that exhibit the best in preservation work across the city were honored. I should write 7 awardees. The full report that provides details of the projects and initiatives I summarized, as well as other accomplishments, will be posted on the department's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding this report?
Thank you for the report. I think it's nice to look at the collection.
The collection, yeah. Really amazing. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Black Chicago Heritage Initiative. The cultural archiving event. And this again is informational only. Eilish. Floor is yours.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Commissioners. In 2022 and in 2023, phase 1 of the Black Chicago Heritage Initiative focused on hosting community conversations, starting with our 22-member steering committee, who held small-scale discussions with their inner circle of close associates, and in the case of local historian Dilla Thomas and artist and activist Tamika Johnson, shown in the lower center of the slide, they held these conversations with attendees of their historic Englewood West tour. Scaling up from there, we held a series of subject-based focus groups. The focus groups were slightly larger gatherings of community stakeholders whose priorities and expertise centered around one of the 5 topic areas, which were arts and culture, the Black diaspora, faith and family, local historians, and the next generation to engage youth. Taking that feedback, we strategized on how best to implement recommendations received from the community. The request to better utilize technology was met by enhancing the department's website content. The city's dedicated website identifies Chicago landmarks associated specifically with Black history on an interactive map that can be accessed on mobile devices, allowing the public to conduct their own tours either virtually or in person. We're also enhancing each site on the map with a pop-up window that will represent the designation report in a more user-friendly format, with updated photographs by Powell Photography, video, audio, and drone footage in some cases. Next slide. Phase 2 of the initiative was always envisioned to be broad community outreach in the form of some larger scale public event. Listening to our steering committee and the focus groups, we settled on an event that would hit a lot of marks, touched upon in their comments about how to best identify, document, and preserve Black Chicago history, while highlighting local community groups with complementary missions. Partnering with faculty from the University of Illinois at Springfield's Public History Program and hosted at the Chicago History Museum, we've organized a digital archiving and educational event for Saturday, March 2nd. This half-day event will include stations to capture attendees' stories behind their personal artifacts and memorabilia. We've engaged youth storytellers from Free Spirit Media out of North Lawndale as volunteer staff to the event to provide an opportunity for intergenerational exchanges. Upon arrival, guests with an item to scan will be paired with a student who will stay with them throughout the process and will interview them to document the personal significance behind the items that they brought. Third point on this slide, I think you can see.
I don't know how to. That's okay. Good push down. Sorry.
Basically, it focuses on the city's role in this initiative. And we heard from phase 1 feedback that the city's best efforts could be to serve as a megaphone for the efforts already underway by local advocates and preservationists doing exactly this type of work. Therefore, we had an open call for local groups to set up, discuss their own archiving projects, and to connect with members of the community for broader collaboration on the projects that they are involved in. In the first week of announcing the event, which was just this week, 260 people have registered for the event. There's been a high level of interest for this, and we're already looking to expand due to the response that we've received so far. We're excited to see what people bring, and we encourage your attendance. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Evan. Does the commissioner have any questions for you?
I have a question.
Yeah, just a quick one. You mentioned the interactive map. It's live currently.
Yes, so the website is www.chicago.gov and then / capital letters BCHI. And that's the landing page for this initiative. We have tabs on the website that include who the members of the steering committee are that we have engaged with in phase 1 to help guide the direction of the project, as well as some of the story maps that we've already created and the map itself, which you can click around and tour around.
I have 2 questions. One, last I looked at the website, which I think is super cool and is off to a great start. There was an indication that there's more story maps in process, and I wondered if there's a target for how many might ultimately be there.
Yeah, so we started off in 2022 with just 2 or 3, just to kind of test the water. And then luckily with our 2023 budget, we created 23 additional ones that are already made, and we're in the editing process just to proofread and swap out some images and things of that nature. But the goal is to get that editing done and get them uploaded within the next few months.
Right. I'm also wondering if Either on the steering committee or more broadly, you have been interacting with the folks who are working on the Chicago Black, a social cultural map. Are you familiar with this project?
Yes.
Yeah, great,
Pretty
great.
fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They've been doing mapping for a couple of years.
Right, they've been doing a cultural asset map, which is very much in line with the work that this event is trying to get at. So I would say broad picture is we were trying to find a way to capture stories that aren't necessarily tied to a structure or a building, but are equally important, but maybe tied to more of an artifact or a place or just a memory or event.
Right, my understanding of the Honey Pot Project is really closely related to that, but also grounded in music in particular, but not exclusively. Right?
Yeah, so I'm planning to reach out to them to see whether or not they want to share images. We can provide the images that we get to them.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the permit review committee reports. Commissioner Becker, yes.
The Borough Review Committee reviewed and conditionally approved one project, it's January 11th, 2024 meeting. The report summarizing the scope of the proposed project, the committee's decisions was included in the package. This report is for the commission.
For the month of January, staff approved 162 permit applications. A total of 190 reviews were performed by staff, with the average number of days to issue approval or correction being 4.6.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? If none, we're close to adjournment. I want to wish everybody a happy Black History Month, as well as a happy Lunar New Year. And we're in February already, so 2024 is on its way. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Anybody?
So moved.
In second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Commissioner Jeffries.
Which was 2:35, 2:30. Ready? Let's go.
You're